I believe that the army has obviously decided that he should go, and so it's only a question of modalities by which they can arrange his departure.
Why are you reluctant to try and influence the situation when America has so clearly been influencing the situation for decades? America's been propping the Egyptian regime up.
Well, America has been allied with Mubarak, and I was in office when the switch of Egypt from the Soviet alliance to America occurred under Sadat. I was not in office during the Mubarak period, but I remember the enormous relief strategically when Egypt was joined more or less outside. So for the United States to be friendly to Mubarak was not an unusual event.
Hasn't that left America on the wrong side of history? I mean, you have hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people demonstrating for democracy against an ally of the United States.
Now, wait a minute. Let's not delude ourselves. We do not know what they're demonstrating for. What they're calling democracy is a change of regime, possibly of leader, possibly a change of system. That does not necessarily make that what they want a democratic answer. I don't know what they want. I think that is going to be the decisive issue, and it's an issue that the Egyptian people will have to decide. It's not something America can decide. We should realize that as a result of this upheaval, the American influence on the day-to-day events will be reduced. And that is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not fearful. I'm saying we have to face the facts of what will be a significant strategic change in the region. Its impact on the other countries, its impact in the perception of the role of America and of the West. And I, of course, believe and hope that this will move in a constructive direction, and I think the American government has behaved skillfully and thoughtfully in this immediate period.
If there is a more Islamic flavor, if you like, to whatever regime emerges from this, people in Israel will be very fearful.
Well, the impact on Israel will be one of the problems. The border with Gaza, a whole range of issues, because Egypt and under Mubarak has been very restrained on the Arab-Israeli issues, and I would expect that it will become a much more assertive partner. But the greater impact will be, the more short-range impact, will be in countries like Saudi Arabia, the Gulf, Jordan, and the whole structure of what had been the Western position in the region, which now will be squeezed from Iran and from what may happen in Egypt. But Egypt also has the possibility to move it in a very positive direction. So I think there are opportunities for the West, for America and Europe, and especially for America and Europe working together in moving this into a constructive direction. But we shouldn't delude ourselves that a moment of exaltation is a foreign policy.
So you do believe that there could be a domino effect, do you now? Would you expect Jordan to be next? They're already taking steps today to try and avoid it.
No, it's not in our interest that Jordan be next or that Saudi Arabia be next. It is in our interest to have governments in that region that respond to their public aspirations, and to hope that those public aspirations will be moderate and not radical, that they be secular and not Islamist. But we really don't know that that is the case.
And if it's not the case, if the will of the people is that they are not a secular state, but they are a more Islamic state, that they are not an ally of the United States and the West, but oppositional towards it, what then?
Well, there's something between being an ally and being in opposition to the United States. It's conceivable that governments emerge that will deal with the issues on a pragmatic basis as they arise. But if the contingency that you described were to arise, that Islamic governments appear, in opposition to the West and following some of the foreign policy of, say, the Iran government, then there would be a fundamental change in the kind of world that we have known since the end of World War II. We would have a duty to begin living with it and to understand it, but we shouldn't delude ourselves that this would not be a radical change in the international environment. It would have a big impact also on the evolution of Asia.
Well, News Just